The Mendocino County Water Agency and the Board of Supervisors has responsibilities, influence, and the authority to do things that no one else can do, especially in a dry year. The Board of Supervisors speaks to and for all of the citizens of the county, which requires the citizens, agencies, and the state to listen. I hope the board can formulate a plan to help overcome the hurdles, which is what Roland was alluding to with the legal problems of point of diversion and place of use, to make sure that we all have water to drink and help the districts and Russian River flood control get the most bang for their water buck. It has been suggested that a valley-wide water restriction could be helpful in stretching our resources for the valley. I think a watershed-wide water restriction might be more effective. We all need to share in this pain, and we all look forward to your help. Thank you.
Thank you, Will.
Thanks, Will. To continue, we're getting to the home stretch here. In terms of I had 5 categories. I have 3 more I want to touch on. The next one is things that we as a county can do. My next major category, I'm calling this the Rural Residential Emergency Water Supply Assistance. And let me just explain a little bit here. Certainly within the last couple of years, we have received, the Water Agency, a number of calls from people out in the hinterlands whose wells or springs have gone dry, and they're either they're buying water or they're trying to buy water from commercial water haulers. And I think it's safe to say if this dry weather trend continues, we're going to get a lot of those calls this coming summer and fall. Long story short, it is getting extremely difficult to buy water. Either the water is not physically there for these people, or there appears to be institutional constraints, water rights issues that make those who may be interested in selling water reluctant to do so. And more specifically, I'm talking about water right place of use issues. Now, I'm not suggesting that we go into the business of selling water, at least for now, but what I am proposing is that we could become a clearinghouse for water haulers here, for sellers and buyers. And at a minimum, I could see where we would use our website to identify and expand information on water haulers, water sellers, people who are willing to sell water, but also do some research on the water rights front there and work with the State Water Resources Control Board to see what we can do to create some institutional flexibility to make more water available. Ultimately, it may make sense for the county at some point to actually drill some wells and basically provide a rural residential emergency water supply. Though that would obviously take a lot more research, and realistically, I don't see that as something this summer. But certainly, in terms of creating a clearinghouse here, to have the information readily available on our website, do the research, the background research on the haulers, perhaps do some additional research with the state board and water rights there to try to resolve some of these issues, separate fact from rumor here, and provide more concise, usable information for people that are truly looking to purchase water. To get them through the rural residences, to get them through this summer and fall. Now, as along the same lines of this rural residential emergency assistance program, we could, and this would be my 4th category, we could, with the assistance of the various water districts, most notably Russian River Flood Control, Potter Valley Irrigation District, as well as some of the larger private landowners with water rights, we could create a water bank for the Mendocino County portion of the Russian River, much like the state does on a larger scale with the State Water Project and the Central Valley Project. And the idea here would be to create, again, a clearinghouse where willing sellers and buyers could be identified and linked up. Now, granted, in a year like this, I suspect there'll be far more buyers than sellers. But again, this is an effort to stretch the available water supply. Now, to do this requires some legal research and dealing with the State Water Resources Control Board to set this up. What I would say is that this is a role to do this background research and to try to get this set up with with the cooperation of the various water districts and large landowners. This is something that the water agency, we could pursue this and initiate the legal research and the discussions with the state board to try to get this implemented. Finally, my last category that I wanted to put out there is something that I'm calling, for lack of a better descriptor, I'm calling it the development of an AB 811 water conservation funding mechanism. You know, it always gets down to money. Traditionally, water districts, you know, be they municipal or irrigation, have been formed when a majority of the people in a given geographic area have agreed to assess a fee on themselves and develop and operate a community water system. And the key is majority of the people. AB 811 was passed into law here in 2008, and it creates an alternative mechanism. And I'm not going to go into all the details here about AB 811. But basically, the idea here is that you have a geographic area, which you can call a district, and it is a situation where within this geographic area, people who are interested in participating can opt in. And the bill started, and the idea started with finding a way to fund energy efficiency improvements in residential and commercial facilities here. And basically, what happens is an individual residence or commercial entity is able to obtain a low-interest loan that is provided by the district. In this case, it would be the county, or it could be the city. And the loan is paid back through the property tax assessments. And again, this is something that already is been discussed, and my understanding is, at least initially, being implemented from an energy standpoint. But it is something that you could use the same concept for water conservation. And it's my understanding that the Sonoma County is already pursuing this in terms of water conservation. Whether or not it will truly work out, I think it's maybe too early to say. I can't say. What I can say, and what I would recommend, is that we look into this thing further as a possible mechanism for funding water conservation improvements. And so with that, I'll like to wrap things up before this turns into a gong show presentation. Suffice to say, it ain't over yet with regard to the weather, but things aren't looking good. And although the county is not a water purveyor, there are some things I believe we can and should do, or at least explore. And again, the major categories were public outreach. We talked about the drought declaration, talked about continued or expanded coordination with public outreach. Leading by example, there's plenty we can do around here on our own facility. The second category was technical assistance. There certainly are some opportunities, and we have some capabilities there. This third category, this notion of a rural residential emergency water supply assistance, or clearinghouse. This is something, again, that I think that we can put together, certainly with available staff and without incurring a significant additional cost. The latter two categories are maybe a little more theoretical, arguably less practical, but I'm throwing them out there anyway, and that is the creation of a water bank for the Mendocino County portion of the Russian River Drainage, and then finally exploring AB 811 as a mechanism for funding water conservation and improvements, either within the county as a whole or a part of the county. And so with that, what I'd like to do, these are all suggestions, and at this point, I'm certainly, I think probably might be some other good ideas, most likely from the public as well, and some of the other people. I'd like to put this out there, and ultimately, we, the water agency, are looking for direction on where, among some of these things discussed, what would you like us to pursue? What would you like us to come back with as agenda items?
Well, we're going to hear some public discussion, but before, I invited environmental health here, and I'd like to have Mr. Morley or Carmel both come up here in a little bit. There's some issues, I believe, that could be done in county. Is the ability, you know, we have restrictions on for neighbors to hook up onto neighbors, tie into their well or things like that, issues of hauling water and bringing basically non-treated water that's not really tested for chemical. I mean, what can environmental health do to